Welcome back. The Union Smack podcast has returned retro style once again. Hope everyone is having a great, fun summer in the surf and the sun and all that goodness. We're going to get out there. We're going to get some sun today. We're going to head to the beach before we do that. I'm back with my main man, my co-host, the Maniac Matt Tennant. What's going on, man? It's been a minute. As always, where can everyone catch you? What you do?
You can catch me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. You can buy our merchandise, the official Union Smack t-shirt, the official WTMD t-shirt, the official Reset Button t-shirt over at our online shop at unionsmack.bigcartel.com.
And guys, get over there while you can, because everything right now, Matt's on sale. It's slashed in half, correct?
Yes, correct. For the summer only.
That sweet summertime fun. And as always on Twitter at the Hibiki TMD. Make sure you hit that subscribe right down below for all the best retro gaming and pro wrestling goodness. Been doing a little Terry plays, been playing all sorts of goodness this summer, and more to come this summer, so stay tuned for that. We're also so elated to finally have our second Hall of Fame video out now, Matt. Chris Adams has arrived. Thank you guys so much on the bottom of Matt and I's hearts. We busted our ass on that. It means the world, all the nothing but positive feedback. You guys are really digging it, and I hope you're ready for more, because our next inductee is right around the corner, Matt.
It is August, fingers crossed, depending on schedules and how busy we are. But yeah, it's coming. Inductee number 3, Adrian Street. So look out for that. I'm going to say around NXT UK TakeOver time, Travis, to give us a little leeway. But yeah, it's coming.
Good things come to those who wait. Just remember, guys.
Indeed.
We've waited for a while to go retro once again. I could probably wait another 20 years to watch this show again, though, Matt. Where are we headed today for our retro review?
We are headed to WCW Bash at the Beach, 1995, the inaugural Bash at the Beach, and well, how can we open this, Travis, in a positive?
That's impossible. You know why? You know why that's impossible? 1995. The year 95, not just WCW, not just WWF. ECW was just blossoming out, finally getting its own character to itself, finally turning hardcore. But 95, as far as the big two, was possibly, Matt, maybe the very worst year in the history of just this two big corporate wrestling war.
Agreed. And if people don't believe us, just go back and watch this, and then go back and watch King of the Ring 95 as well, and you'll see just how bad creatively everything was, like from King Mabel to the Dungeon of Doom to Savio Vega to Meng. It's just a tedious slog through a year of wrestling history that should be locked in a vault and banished to the bottom of the sea.
And those are just two little name drops of shows from 95. If you want to, have a nightcap, follow it up with WrestleMania 11, possibly to this day, the worst WrestleMania of all time.
Oh, come on. Not worse than WrestleMania 9.
I don't know, man. WrestleMania 9 didn't have the plethora of tech issues that 11 had. I swear to God, every time they'd go backstage, it was like this. Hey, guys, I'm back. Diesel, and like every fucking time. And that's like the only time I remember ever for any pay-per-view WWF ever did. They all had like little headphones and like they worked for like a telemarketer or something. I was like, why? My God.
That is true, actually.
Oh, but we are not at WrestleMania 11, thank the God above. We are here at Bash at the Beach. I don't know how much more thankful I should be. From Huntington Beach, California. I can't remember. There wasn't another Bash at the Beach outside. Sometimes that's easy to mix up with the Road Wild shows, but no, this was the only time, right, that Bash at the Beach was outdoors.
Yeah, and thank God, because, I mean, we opened with a nice, no, I can't even say a nice, like, opening graphics. The opening graphics here did not age well in 30 years.
Well, that, and it was a goddamn Slim Jim commercial, straight up. That's all it was.
Yeah, that's true, it was. Nice aerial shots of the ring, like in the middle of the beach, and people crowding round, and people just going about their day. Made it all feel a lot different, a lot more special for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean,
And
aesthetically,
then,
when you first glance at it, oh, that looks cool. Like on television, it looks cool, but that wears off fast, like you said. Like within like
yeah,
5 minutes, you're like, oh, this kind of sucks.
yeah. Do you know what? But by the time the first match was in the ring, and is it Michael Buffer, the ring announcer?
Yes.
By the time he's finished his introduction, it's all just grown old. It's like that's how quick it passes. That the novelty wears off, and yeah,
I think a lot of that is these people couldn't see unless the guys were literally standing in the ring. They could see shit because there's no risers, there's no rafters. They're standing on a goddamn beach. It is as advertised. Don't get me wrong. It is on the beach, but with that, you can't see shit.
no, no, they were visibly like on tiptoes, trying to just catch a glimpse of anything, and it just brought down the entire event. It brought down the entire feeling, and it was just like, yeah, this is going to be a shit show for the next 2.5 hours.
Now, for what it's worth, when the guys were in the ring and the crowd could see them, they were on fire. They were behind almost every punch and kick and blah, blah, bblah. They were into it. It's just, man, God forbid we spill to the outside during a match.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I can't. I can't blame them for that, because as somebody who doesn't like sand on their skin, it's like a nightmare for me would have been just to have to fight on the sand, and just roll around in it. I would have straight up just nixed that if creative have come up with that for me. Sorry.
I'm just watching it also and just trying to imagine the stench of all that human mass for 3 hours watching other sweaty men. Wonder what that locker room smelled like that day, especially with guys like Kamala on this show.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you're welcome. By the way, also, shout out, since we're talking about the venue and stuff real quick, popping the cherry on this episode, I've never seen such a collective group of mullets assembled in one crowd in my entire shirtless, white, mulleted men galore on this.
Yeah.
Good God.
Except maybe a Billy Ray Cyrus concert. Maybe that would have beat it, but certainly a lot of mulletage going on.
This had more mullets than like the crowd at Starrcade 83, and this is over 10 years later. It's insane. But anyway, all the venue and all that bullshit aside, this pay-per-view had 2 dark matches. One was Craig Pittman, defeating a young Chris Kanyon in 2 minutes, 3 seconds. And another was Road Warrior Hawk defeating Mark Starr. Road Warrior Hawk, I remember coming back in early 96 when the LOD come back. I don't remember him being around at all in 95. I do remember at this time he was teaming with Kensuke Sasaki in Japan as like the new LOD or the Hellraisers or something, right?
Yeah. And I think we can all be grateful that he wasn't around much in 95, because, I mean, I was never a great fan of the Road Warriors per se in Crockett and NWA, etc. LOD were different, obviously, as a child, the red and black spiky pads, etc. But looking back at them now, it's like they weren't the greatest team in the world. I know people generally consider them, the greatest tag team in history, but I don't think they were. I think if overrated applied to any team, it would be Legion of Doom.
I think the thing with the LOD has always been, in retrospect, looking back, going up north to New York for them was the best and worst thing they ever did. Of course, financially, getting their name out there, their household names, at that time they were for the most part. Yes, that was the right choice, but in the bad way, once they went up north, they never lost that Saturday morning monster feel to them. When they were in the NWA and AWA, they felt like goddamn serial killers, like, oh my God. But when they went up north, it was like, yeah, it's a Scooby-Doo mystery hour or so. And they never kind of lost that. And I feel like by the time 98 came around, when they were JOB 2000, that's a big reason why they weren't to be taken as badass. Yes, you could have got around it with their age, because it's not like they were 70 years old. They were in like their 40s,
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. And they did come across as like monsters in NWA, and maybe they didn't need the in-ring side of it as much because of their look and the power, etc. And they had opponents who would sell for them. But I don't know. It's like I've always had this thing with LOD where, they look physically impressive, but in the ring, it's like they just bore me to death.
Yeah, it was a different time too. It was the punch kick era, and we're plenty of that on this review.
Yeah.
The opening match, it was more of that than I thought it would be, honestly, especially where these two guys were at in their career. This show kicked off with, after the Slim Jim commercial, after the introduction of Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone dressed in like they work at Target for some reason with the khakis and the red shirts. We are opening with, Matt,
Sting versus Ming for the US Championship. Could they not have fucking done that any better?
It was such a rib.
Please.
You know it was a rib. And Eric Bischoff was probably in their earpieces like, keep saying Sting versus Ming as many times as you can. It's making me smile, at least.
Do you know what, Travis? I knew we were in for a treat after the video package told us that the fight will continue until the breathing stops. What more do you need from a video package apart from that?
You know what? For its time, not a bad Ming video package.
It was quite good, actually. It's just very...
Wrong guy. I felt like this vignette, I felt like they were supposed to bring the Great Muta in and it never panned out, and they didn't want to waste their money, so they saved the vignette footage and just gave it to Ming and the gimmick.
Yeah. Yep. And do you know what? Something else. This show was, 2.5 hours, just over? I'm convinced 30 minutes of that was Michael Buffer's introduction for everyone.
Jesus God, the worst, least favorite ring announcer of all time, simply because, do we need to tell a total fucking origin and biography of every guy when we're announcing the match, or can we just announce they're waiting where the fuck they're from? God.
It's like he was reading a fucking novel while he was introducing them.
Many say this man walked up from the Himalayan mountaintops, and when he discovered the true nature of the just shut up! It's bad enough that you have one little sweat bead on your goddamn forehead while it's a sweltering 102 degrees outside in your tux. But man, get to the point.
Tux in the ring.
Michael Buffer, not a hair out of place.
I noticed that. It's like, did he have a stylist or a fucking comb at ringside? Just between matches, he just sort his hair out because it was perfect every match. Had to have.
On the other end, backstage promo from Sting. Really awkward promo by the end of this for me. I don't know about you.
Awful. I thought it was just like he was saying a bunch of words, and he got the fact that his parents were there somewhere, and he didn't want to be embarrassed in front of his parents and lose in front of them, and it was just like, get on with it.
And then after all that heartfelt, all that talk about his family and friends being there, he ends the promo talking about his muscles. What the hell? I was just like, what just happened when he said that? But yeah. Ming, this was right before Ming would join the DOD, the Dungeon of Doom, for those not in the know. His manager, Colonel Rob Parker at the time, I was never a fan ever of Colonel Rob Parker. I'm sorry, come at me, guys. He's just not a good manager and a mouthpiece for me. I don't know about you.
No, I agree. I mean, he looked the part, don't get me wrong, but again, it's just like another face in the crowd, wasn't he? Like, WCW had so many managers and valets that they did nothing with, and I think he just fell into that category of maybe could have been special if they'd have bothered, but he was no Bobby Heenan, let's put it that way. For sure.
This match, for the most part, it was the longest match of the show. 15 minutes, 28 seconds. It's very surprising how slow-paced this was. I thought this would be one of the better, if not the best match on the card, just looking at it on paper. Wasn't, by any means, for me. I will say the crowd was red hot for the hometown boy Sting or whatever. It's not his hometown, but I thought he was from Venice Beach.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say to that because
it's the Davey Boy effect, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, it is. And I'm also looking down my list of notes here, and all I can see is botch. It's like
sloppy.
This was a massive botch fest.
It was very sloppy.
I don't know whether it was the heat, Travis, or like the sweat, and they were just like slipping off of each other. But I think it was Sting that botched a Hurricane Rana.
Yeah, Oh God, those.
And then he did that sit down jump that like people like Vader do, and he just landed on Ming's face, just like full force, and you could see Ming just like holding his face, like, what the fuck was that?
It's a good thing Ming was like the toughest guy in the world, because anybody else, they probably would have got a skull fracture or something.
Yeah.
And that's the
Ming was
last
just
guy
like,
you want to botch a skull move on is Ming, by the way. Way to go, Sting.
yeah,
Sting is your winner,
fucking
though.
kill you.
This was during the time where Hogan had been there for about a year. It was so blatant. As soon as they snagged Hulk Hogan, they pushed Sting to the background as fast as they could, down to the
Yeah.
mid card. You go.
Yeah, and it was sad really because Sting was there. I mean, you could arguably say Lex Luger before he made the jump to WWF, but I think for me, Sting was their only true homegrown star. You know, it's like Shawn Michaels in the WWF. Like, Sting was the Shawn Michaels of WCW. Like, he never went anywhere. He always stayed loyal to the company.
Yeah. Obviously, they both started in other places and territories, but when they found that character, is what Matt's saying. When they found that and they ran with that most successful, yeah. I just wanted to do that so the assholes in the comments and the assholes on Twitter would leave us alone with those technicality bullshit, so we clear our names.
Oh yeah, well, I'm done with the assholes on Twitter. It's like, I'm done reading wrestling Twitter and being annoyed by it, Travis. I'm now in the camp of I'll read it and I'll have a good laugh about it, knowing that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Exactly. That's all you can do. We're laughing at you. So just remember that. We're laughing at you. This match, it's never. I would never go out of your way to watch this, even if you're the biggest Sting fan. And call me crazy, Matt. We might both have this. The very first Sting compilation DVD. It was just a match DVD that remember WWE released a couple years ago. I think this match was on there, right?
I think so. I mean, I've got it upstairs. I've got them both. I think this match might have been featured somewhere on it, but why you feature this, I don't know. It was just dull. It was like 15 and a half minutes, felt like 35 and a half minutes.
Well, it doesn't get any prettier from here, Matt. At all.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't, because Renegade.
By the way, Sting retains still the United States champion.
Yeah. Not that it matters, because it's just like, so we get a Renegade interview next with Mean Gene Okerlund, I believe. And if you've never seen Renegade, anyone listening to this, or ever heard of him, and I don't know why you would, because he was a complete flash in the pan. Think dollar store, pound shop, depending where you are in the world, Ultimate Warrior. And he had the complete feeling like WCW wanted to rip off the Ultimate Warrior for a new generation. And I completely understand trying to do that and recapture what WWF had with the Ultimate Warrior in the early 90s.
But do that with the fucking Ultimate Warrior, not some guy you're going to put in paint and call the Ultimate Warrior, right?
Or someone who can fucking carry it off and actually wrestle, because this was just an embarrassment. It's like the entire interview with Mean Gene Okerlund was Ultimate Warrior-esque. Like the snarling, the just, the panting. That was one thing. And then he got out in the ring against Paul Orndorff to defend the television championship, which was the next match on the card. And it was a complete fuckfest. Like, from beginning to end, absolutely horrible. And you know what I feel sorry for here, Travis? It wasn't Paul Orndorff, who looked fucking terrible. It wasn't Renegade. It wasn't. Was it Jimmy Hart, his manager?
Yes.
Renegade?
Yep.
Yeah. It wasn't Jimmy Hart. It was Arn Anderson, who had to lose the title to this complete moron.
I actually did feel bad for Renegade too, because he was rushed in so fast. He didn't have a lot of time to get seasoned as an underneath guy. I understand that, but at the same time, it's like you tried your best, and I never got that with Renegade ever, that he was trying his best. What's the word?
I always felt
Good.
I
So
always felt like he was stumbling through it, just like, this will do because I think I'm going to be the next star.
I've watched like 2 tapes of The Warrior, and now I got it. I got this, guys. Hold my beer. What's the word on the street? Is the urban legend that there were negotiations? They tried to bring in the Warrior when the Hogan camp went, but he was just a prick as far as numbers or something.
Yeah, I believe so.
So
And it makes sense, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah,
you know, you can't afford the Warrior because he's priced himself out of the market, so you just come up with a knockoff Warrior. And you can see this had Hogan behind it. It was like, well, you know, one of my main rivals in my career. Why don't we just take the piss out of him and get this kid who looks like him with the face paint on, but he can't really wrestle, and you know, we'll tell everybody what we really think of the Ultimate Warrior by mocking him blatantly.
obviously we all know how well. Most of us know. If you didn't, the Renegade, unfortunately took his own life a couple years after this. We're not trying to make fun of that, but my God, how do you talk about the Renegade with it not making light of it? You know what I mean? Like, geez, everything about this was just misfire. Nothing about, like, people kind of took the bait at first, but people got to remember this was right before the birth of the internet, right? Or it was in its pure infancy. So it took a lot, like the hardcore casuals, it took them a while to figure out it wasn't the Warrior, I think. As sad as that is, to think, like, someone would think that's not the Warrior, I think that was a case of why he was really over for like 2 or 3 months. It took people a little bit.
If the internet had been like as it is now, or even a tiny bit better, then this would never have worked. People would have realised within 5 minutes it wasn't the Ultimate Warrior, and the character would have died a death quicker than it did. But obviously, because it was simpler times, Travis, then he rode that Ultimate Warrior wave to its fullest, I think.
I was going to say the best he could, but he didn't have a chance out of the gate with this. I mean, no matter, as far as the match, this has been a Botchamania classic over the years. I've seen it featured on there many a times. Terrible match. Paul Orndorff totally out of his prime. This is also around the time on the other end of this for Paul Orndorff. This is around the time of the shower shoes incident with Vader, I believe, right?
Yeah. And Vader would leave after this, so...
Yep.
So, yeah. I mean, and Paul Orndorff looked dull and not great in the 80s. It's like, if nobody's seen this, just imagine a skinnier, older Paul Orndorff, and that's basically what you got. It was like, what? There was a problem with his arm as well, wasn't there? Like later on in his career,
that's why he retired.
And you could see it as well here. It was just really bad.
It's sad to watch this. Honestly, it's trouble lifting. Actually, now you say it, you noticeably he had trouble lifting him, or you'd see the strain on his face every time he had to lift the Renegade up.
Yeah. Two awful drop kicks by Renegade. Like, what was he doing?
Okay, whoever the fuck was the agent for Renegade or this match needed to be fired immediately. Okay, you got a guy where his entire basis is to think like the Warrior, talk like the Warrior, work like the Warrior. When in the blue hell did the Ultimate Warrior ever throw a drop kick, man? That red hot Ricky Morton fire drop kick from the Ultimate Warrior.
I think that this character might have worked better, like, had they said to him, right, look, you've got 5 moves to do throughout a match, right? 5 power moves, learn them well, we'll send you down to, I think it was the power plant, was it not? The WCW training school?
Yep.
We'll send you to the power plant, learn these religiously, you've got 6 weeks, to come up with 3 or 4 comeback routines in which you get them in. We'll put you with someone like Arn Anderson, and that's going to be your gimmick. If I'd have done that, it might have worked, Travis. But to give him all this sloppy shit when he clearly couldn't do it, it was just awful. And the ending to this match was even worse. It was like just a belly-to-back suplex.
That was it. That was fucking it. You blink and that was, my God.
It's like this is what his arguably second biggest championship. It's on a man that's laughable, God rest his soul, but he was laughable. And then you have the match end with a simple belly-to-back suplex. It's like, please, just put some effort in, because it was like there was absolutely no effort put into this whatsoever.
Everything about this match, both guys' careers and outcomes, is really depressing and sad to watch. The Renegade's career would fizzle out totally by the end of '95 when Jimmy Hart would turn heel for the 5 millionth time and join the Dungeon of Doom and all that. Then the Renegade would just be a straight-up WCW pro and WCW Thunder job guy until his untimely death. Paul Orndorff will retire, like we said. Another match, 2 in a row. Man, we're on fire this week. Never go out of your way to watch it. Up next, hope you guys didn't expect it to get any better, Matt.
Yeah, the gems keep rolling.
This was right around the time, like we said, of the Dungeon of Doom. You cannot talk about Kamala with the Taskmaster in his corner without a little bit of glossing over the Dungeon of Doom. And a sneak peek at the next Never Drew a Dime episode. Awful. Yeah. The worst angle, group, whatever you want to call it, maybe, in the history of professional wrestling in general. Yeah, I mean, yes, it has a so bad it's good appeal, but at what cost? After a while, it's just like that comedy factor wears off fast, because then you actually have to watch the match.
Yeah.
What did you think of the DOD, Matt? Gloves off.
It's difficult because I understand the concept behind it. Like, you've got all of these former WWF guys that you've signed, and just jumping off the point a second here, Travis, it's like, this is the third match in a row that it became noticeable that WCW had become a WWF dumping ground.
Yeah.
But you've got all these guys who weren't going to make it with their former gimmicks. Like Brutus Beefcake wasn't going to make it as Brutus Beefcake in WCW. He barely made it in WWF. Kamal just had, the same gimmick forever. And they had to do something with them. I understand the thought process behind it. The execution, though, was absolutely abysmal. Like, absolutely horrible. I see the effort they put into the vignettes, and Kevin Sullivan in his little parlour / cave, and I appreciate all of that, but it was the shits in the end. The absolute shits.
The end never justified the means with the Dungeon of Doom.
No.
Never. When you said that about ex-WWE guys, I ran down my sheet here, and there's only one match on this pay-per-view that just had strictly WCW guys at the time, not former WWF talent guys, and that was DDP and Dave Sullivan, which we'll get to. But man, you're so right. This was just that boiling point of just WWF light is what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. And can you imagine being Eric Bischoff in '95 and thinking, do you know who we really need to spark our roster? Our roster full of men like Sting and people like that. Do you know we really need Kamala and Jim Duggan? That'll do it.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
How unbelievable is it? Let's go on the Jim Duggan end and get off the DOD for a second. How unbelievable is it, even back on all the compilations and documentaries you see it on, that the way that Jim Duggan won the United States title in WCW, squashing Steve Austin with a football tackle in 5 seconds. Yeah. How crazy is that?
Disgusting.
And we just talked about it on our last episode together, the State of the WWE address. Yes, we're happy that the winds of change are kind of blowing, but this is the same guy now for SmackDown that booked that. So that's a little scary to think about.
It is. Hopefully he's learned his lessons, because I would hate to see or hear, because I'm not going to watch it obviously until it, I'm assured it's got much, much better. Bring in Jim Duggan for a run with a 24/7 championship against R-Truth or something hideous. Can you imagine? Just because I can see that happening. I can see R-Truth running down a hallway and suddenly a fucking 2x4 gets whacked round the corner and knocks him out, and there's Jim Duggan.
Or go the other way. Have Kamala come back with no legs and all and win the 24/7 title.
What, just wheeling himself up the corridor?
He might as well. He'd be more over than Cedric Alexander at this point.
True.
Who I probably had to remind the most of you that is still employed by WWE just now, which is so sad. Good God, Cedric Alexander deserves better. This match fucking sucked. Another stinker, guys. Kamala actually wins a match, though. When have I ever said that on any shows in almost 5 years? Never. Kamala defeated the man that squashed Steve Austin.
There was no logic to this at this point. It was just like, give anyone a win to keep them happy.
Yeah.
Was it my imagination, or did they introduce him as the Ugandan warrior when Mean Gene Oakland had just introduced him in the interview as the Ugandan giant?
Oh, they sure did. The Ugandan warrior. I will say this is something we've neglected to mention for the third match in here. There's a lot of shots. The cameramen, shout out to them. They definitely went out of the way to find the most attractive women in the crowd for what's that's worth in 95. For this, though, every time they panned on an attractive lady during Kamala's entrance, they'd look just so confused and disgusted and just, they were just in terror of this man. So I guess the gimmick worked in a way to scare hot white women.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, make of that what you will. It's like I'm pretty sure, Kamala didn't want to scare the hot white women, but hey, you've got a big fat black man out there with paint on his stomach and face in a little fucking leopard print mini skirt. What else do you think is going to happen?
Another a little nuance here also. Throughout this entire pay-per-view on commentary, Tony Schiavone mentions the hundreds of thousands of people on the beach. Dude, there's like not even 10,000 people there. There's maybe 7,000 or 8,000 people on that beach. Legit.
And didn't they hype it up as the most attended WCW event up to that point?
And that was the Inoki show, right? That was actually the most attended in reality.
Yeah, it was.
I do remember as a kid, though, buying into this bullshit, thinking, wow, hundreds of thousands of people. And as a kid, everything looks bigger, right? So you're watching TV, like, you've never seen a show shot like this on the beach, so you kind of believed it.
Yeah.
Silly us.
The problem is that they gave out these, so-called facts, and then they'd do a helicopter shot for the 17,000th time, and you could clearly see that what they were saying was bullshit.
Yeah. I guess I never noticed the helicopter shots as a kid. What'd you think of this match?
Trash. Like, complete trash. I believe they had maybe a similar or identical match at a UK Rampage. Maybe it was 93. Something along those lines, I think. No, 93 was Luger and Duggan. I know Kamala and Duggan had a match very similar to this because I've got it somewhere. I think it's a compilation on something. But,
I feel like they had a match on Raw, too, in its first year at some point.
Yeah, do you know what? I feel like that's probably right. Because I've seen this match before, Travis, and very bad. And Zodiac comes in, hits Duggan with Kamala's mask. Duggan just sort of flops over backwards, and Kamala pins him. Done.
I guess since Kevin Sullivan's the booker in this area, he should be known as the Trash Master. Since your review is trash. Ugh.
I won't agree with that.
Put another Biohazard sticker up on a match. That's 3 down. We are on fire this. Can we keep the streak alive?
Do you know what? I don't think we can, because I actually enjoyed the next match.
After what we've sat through at this point, the next match was like every Steamboat and Flair, Bret Hart, Davey Boy, every great match rolled into one. DDP with the Diamond Doll. Oh, sweet Kimberly. And Max Muscle, who I forgot was this weird bodyguard guy, defeated Evad. Kevin Sullivan's dyslexic brother, Dave Sullivan, the original Eugene. Let's fucking say it. It is what it is. It was the retarded gimmick. They just never came out and said he was retarded.
He was sort of a cross between Eugene, Festus, and George Steele. It was like all three rolled into one.
Perfect. Beautifully done. I do remember Dave Sullivan at the time, though, especially for this little angle with like the Booty Babe or Kimberly, whatever the fuck she was called this week, actually being kind of over.
Yeah, he was. He was over like Steel was over with the Savage Elizabeth storyline in 86, 87.
Yeah. This was just that time, like this era where all it took sometimes was an attractive female to get this mongoloid fucking, just idiotic baby face over. People were just, it was so easy to sway people back then. It was unreal. It took literally nothing to get the most heat, I feel like. And I think, I think when you hear a lot of these borderline bitter older generation wrestlers and shoot interviews, how they trash the workers today, I kind of see it from the other end too. I kind of feel like the guys back in the day, they had it way more easy. Yes, the road stories and all that shit was brutal, but man, it took nothing to get those people to eat out of your hands. Whereas today, everything's been done. These guys got to go the extra mile to get these people to even, look up on their phones for the most part.
Yeah, agreed.
And I appreciate, and that's why you and I know you're with me on this in unison, why we appreciate a talent like Pete Dunne, because he does the whole Back to the Future technique. It's so rarely done now, that throwback, Wigan, Billy Robinson style. So when Pete Dunne does it, that's what turns heads now.
Yeah. People want and appreciate, I think, more like leaning towards the wrestling side now, like Pete Dunne does, rather than any character that you could come up with. Because you could give Pete Dunne a retarded gimmick. Don't, Vince. Like, honestly, if Pete Dunne makes the main roster and they fuck him over, I'm done with this company. Like, properly done with everything to do with this company. That's the line for me. But yeah, you could give Pete Dunne like the Dave Sullivan Festus gimmick, and
they call him E-Tep.
On him.
Because it's the E-Tep.
Stop it. Just stop it.
Everyone's looking at a Photoshop picture of Pete Dunne on Dave Sullivan right now. You did that. I didn't say he had a retarded gimmick. You did. That was you. We reap what we sow in life, man.
But yeah, he could have that gimmick and it would work on him today, because people would look past it to what he can do in the ring. But yeah, I think you could get away with it much more in 95 than you can today, because today people just want like the pure wrestling side of it now.
And I'm just kidding. I wouldn't dare do that Photoshop, dear sweet Peter. Hey, give it to us, man. Somehow we managed to squeeze every drop out of the Pete Dunne juice, and we got a reference in Bash of the Beach 95, Pete Dunne somehow. So there you go.
And do you know what the sad part is that he wasn't even part of this, and he's the best part of this.
Yeah. I'm with you, though. Finally, a pretty decent little match, considering who was in it and the time they were given. The shortest match so far here at 4 minutes, 23 seconds. DDP getting the win over Dave Sullivan. This was around the time, too, they started doing the Elizabeth Randy Savage gimmick, like you said. That's all they did, just copy and paste with DDP and Kimberly. Eventually, Johnny B. Bad would be in here by the end of 95, and,
Yeah.
Still awful. Still not good. I mean, this as decent as this match was, don't get us twisted. This storyline still sucked a big old dick. It was just not good.
Oh, yeah. And the only reason the match worked because it was so short and compact. It's like they had to get to the point quick. Like, if this had been given 15 minutes, this would have been worse than Kamala and Dodom. Because it was short.
Yeah. It was booked smart because it was in between a title match.
Yeah. And plus, it was 4 matches deep into a card that was just already terrible. So it was like anything that's not ex-WWF, anything that's not old men who are just there for a paycheck. It's like, oh, quite refreshing.
What did you think of this match before we move on, Matt?
Honestly, for me, this was the best match of the entire show.
Yeah, I agree. Savage and Flair, we've seen way better from the two. They totally phoned it in on the lifeguard match, which we'll get to. But I kind of gotta agree with you on that.
How sad is that? Like, how fucking sad is that? This is a card that featured Savage, Flair, Hogan, Vader, Sting, Harlem Heat, probably a few more that I'm forgetting. And the best fucking thing on it was a 4-minute match between a fat Diamond Dallas Page and a mongoloid Dave Sullivan.
And it goes to show what that cancer was at the time. Just it wasn't working. It just people weren't buying it. Those ex-WWF guys, once again. Keyword, this was Vader in his prime. This was Harlem Heat in their prime. Those guys with the majority of anyone else had kick-ass matches, except they're in there with Hogan. They're in there with the Nasty Boys. That's what it was. That was the issue and the problem. Where Terry's boys, brother. They were just destroying this product from the inside out. Flat out.
Yeah, agreed.
Until Eric Bischoff eventually watched one New Japan show, saw the light, ripped off an angle from there, and off we went to the races. It was just that, man. It was just not fucking good. No, it's not exaggerated. People that shit on this time in WCW and wrestling, it's not. If you don't believe us, you've never seen it, by all means, feel free. Go back and take a peek at 2 minutes of this show. Yes, best match of the night, got to agree with you, and sentiments won't last long.
Next up was an interview with Harlem Heat, and for me, this was the best interview on the entire show, Travis, because Booker T was on fire. It was like all the little bits we got with Mean Gene Okerlund, with like Sting and fucking Hogan and Dennis Rodman later in the show. But this, compare Booker T's rant to that, and it was like fucking Jake Roberts at WrestleMania 6. I loved Booker T's promo here. It was like, it was fast, but you got everything he said.
Let me say this, because I'm going to take advantage of it, because we very rarely get to talk about the Harlem Heat. What it is, in my opinion, you might disagree, Matt. I don't think you will. It's a damn shame how underrated and overlooked they are at being some of the best, at being the most believable at their gimmick. They literally look like and sounded like and just came off of that screen like, I do not want any parts of these guys. And every time they went up against quote-unquote tough guy teams like the Nasties, the Outsiders, it would always make that team kind of seem like they were tending to be tough guys when they're in there with Harlem Heat.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, Travis, that Harlem Heat, best WCW tag team in history, without a doubt. It's like,
I'm a Steiner's guy, but if not 1A, they're number 2.
You know what? I'm going with Steiner's are the best tag team in history. Like, for me, they're at number 1. But I think if we're dividing it into like different promotions, then Harlem Heat are the best WCW tag team in history.
Yeah, I'd have to give it to them then. If we're just making like, yeah, I see what you said there. This match though was not one of their better ones, and like we said, it had to do with their dance partner in this. Their opponents, Matt, the Nasties, 95 Nasties, and the Blue Bloods, who you think thrown in, those guys would. The match didn't suck. It was just given too much time. I feel like.
I think for me it was overbooked, like severely overbooked. There was no direction to it. We've seen triple threat tag team matches, even fatal 4-way tag team matches, where there's a direction. It's like these two teams are working together. They get out, the next two teams working together. You work a little story into it. Everybody gets their time. This just felt like a flood of let's do anything to fill the time without it meaning anything.
And that's a damn shame, because this is, one of the third to last match of the night for the tag team titles.
Yeah. I mean, Harlem Heat versus the Blue Bloods was very good when it was given time.
Right.
But I think the spotlight was obviously on the Nasties because they were, Hulk Hogan's boys. And I really don't think... I think if you'd removed the Nasty Boys from this, we'd have been looking at the best match of the night.
Hands down.
But it was because they were involved. It was just like, same gimmick they've always had. Like Duggan, it's like they survived off one gimmick for Christ knows how long.
Forever. I don't think, have they ever had another gimmick? They came in the AWA together, right?
Yeah, I don't recall them ever having like a different repertoire or gimmick, or it was just that for for their career.
I'll put it this way: in any age of mine, a kid, teen, adult, whatever, in any promotion, any era, I never got the nasties. I never got the appeal. They were always kind of a channel changer team for me. I know when they came back in TNA in like 2010 when Eric Bischoff and Hogan first came in, I remember like these people in the crowd, like they had like Nasty Boy shirts and were so hyped. I was just like, why? What the fuck? Remember the Nasty IM shirts in TNA?
Yes, I remember them.
God. I never got it.
I mean, as a kid, like, the Nasty Boys sort of appealed to me as heel, never as baby faces. It's like, you shit the bed with them as baby faces. Sorry, but they were never a team that were meant to be, you know, good guys.
They were kind of like had shit timing too. They always came into a promotion right after a red hot little era of tag teams. Like they came into the WWF right after the golden era of tag teams. You know what I mean? Like the era. Yeah. They came into WCW right after great tag teams in like 92 and 93 and stuff like that. Just bad timing all around. Harlem Heat got the win here. Thankfully, thank Lord. I wouldn't have. I would have loved a Blue Bloods title run. I'm pretty sure they never won them, but I would have been all about it.
That would have been nice. What the fuck was this ending, Travis?
A shit show, rush job, fucking everyone's lost except like one guy out of 6, pretty much. Just overbooked, like you said, fucking...
I think they slammed Booker T on Bobby Eaton, didn't they? And then pinned them both, but the referee only counted Booker T's pinfall on Bobby Eaton, and then no one was sure who won it at the end, and then Harlem Heat retained because they just ignored the Nasty Boys pinfall on both men, and it was like, well, only 2 of them can be legal men, so was it Booker T and Bobby Eaton? Was it Jerry Saggs and Booker T? Who the fuck was it?
The only reason I can kind of give the finish a pass is because in 95, we literally first started seeing triple threats, fatal 4-ways introduced because Paul Heyman, ECW, the 3-way dance. This is when Bischoff would first start ripping off Heyman left and right. I think the WWF first did the triple threat in like early 96, I want to say.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I'd go with that.
So this is a match where it never really been done before, and yes, especially when you make it 3 tag teams, you just doubled the numbers.
That's it.
Yeah, it was so new and confusing, I feel like at the time too. A lot of these matches would have 2 refs, one on the outside and the inside, which you never see today.
It'd be a refreshing introduction, I think. Like, if Eric Bischoff wants to make SmackDown different to Raw, then that could be like something he could do, like add a second referee.
He could do it kind of how Bill Watts wanted to do it when he took over in 92, where Bill Watts, like, he made it more old school, right? He's like, you can't jump off the top rope anymore. He was like, well, it just makes the heels have to cheat anymore. Bill Watts went way overboard. You should never, ever not let a guy come off the top rope in the 90s. No one's going to watch that shit. But Eric Bischoff should do that, just a less is more kind of feel to it, I feel like.
Yeah, I
Make
agree.
the heels cheat more. Think outside of the box with your storylines, God forbid.
Yes.
And I feel like he was always a master at thinking outside of the box. For what it's worth, for all his flaws as a booker, all the money he lost for that company, he was good at that.
And you know, I hope he brings like that outside the box thing into SmackDown Live, because I think, you know, making SmackDown Live different to Raw and NXT and NXT UK could greatly help to pull back people who have just gone, do you know what? Fuck you, Vince.
Yeah. What Eric Bischoff was never good at, though, Matt, was giving Randy Savage and Ric Flair a good storyline while in WCW together, where they'd be hitting each other with women's high heels, attacking his elderly father. It was never good. The only goddamn storyline I ever remember Randy Savage being given that was good in WCW was his DDP storyline, and that was way after this.
Yes, it was like 3 years later.
Something. But this was... The build was decent, I guess. The storyline was new for what it was, but that doesn't mean it's good. Angelo Poffo had no fucking business being on TV. I don't care what you say. What the hell is a lifeguard match, by the way? Oh, it's just an excuse to get all these B-list actors out there who no one's ever fucking heard of from Baywatch. Jesus.
Which we were reminded like a million times that they were filming like clips of wrestling for an upcoming episode of Baywatch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't ever remember that episode.
I do, unfortunately, and I think it's on
Do
YouTube.
ya?
And maybe one day, someday, we can review that, possibly.
Oh my god.
It's so bad, it's good. Trust me, you'll enjoy it. This, though,
Okay.
the pomp and pageantry for the Macho Man's entrance, the king of the lifeguards, apparently. My God, just a ticker tape parade with lifeguards for the Macho Man.
Yes.
The women loved him. What can you say?
I mean, he still had, Randy Savage, I think, still had it in 95. It was like, you know, what we loved about him all them years ago was still there. It was just never fully exposed by WCW.
Mm-hmm.
I think Savage went into WCW thinking he was going to be this massive star that he was in WWF in the early 90s, late 80s, and it just never happened for him. Because I honestly believe, looking back, that Savage suffered from the Bret Hart syndrome, as where he was a massive star, but they just never knew how to use him.
Exactly. I think something Vince always did better than WCW was when it didn't matter. Usually, more times than not, when they brought a guy in from the other company, they'd at least give you a vignette or a backstory, get to know him. WCW automatically assumed that their viewers would know who these guys were, or yes, they were household names, but these were totally different wrestling audiences. We go back to Black Saturday in '84, the fans down south shit on that when Vince first aired his product. The tastes in wrestling were totally different.
Yeah, agreed. And do you know what? Even Flair, they didn't know how to use him after a while. It was like when Bischoff took over and Hogan come in, it was just like Savage, Flair, Hogan later on, Sting in 95. It's like all these massive stars that could really elevate your company above WWF before, you know, it actually got there in the ratings. It's like you just never knew how to use them.
Yeah, I mean, Flair was always he was always in the title picture and winning world titles, but I think that's only because Flair was in the booking office. I think if he wasn't, you know, otherwise he just came off like a lost old man from the retirement home. That's what he looked like on the beach, at least to me, in his robe and his get-up.
Yep. And this match was probably every match I've ever had on a live event.
It was. Just go watch their match from WrestleMania 8, guys. Way better.
Yeah, much better. Much better storyline leading into it as well. And it was just like, for me, the best part of this was Ric Flair's pre-match interview. Not because of anything he said, but because if you look at it properly, like his chest is so black.
Yeah.
Ric Flair's. It's like you put his head on Kamala's body. It's really weird.
He looked like he literally just fell asleep for 3 days on the beach.
Yeah, he did. And that's my overall impression of this match. Ric Flair's head on Kamala's body. That's how
I thought you were going to say sleep for 3 days on the beach or something. No, you're so right. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything bad. It was just nothing memorable, really, because we've been there and done that feel to it just a million times over. Randy Savage getting the win. I don't know. I mean, at the time, what do you do with the guys? Well, there's a lot you could have done with them. You could have gave them other dance partners in 95. Did they work anyone else besides each other during this time?
I don't think they did. I think I remember Savage having something with Arn Anderson. Maybe that was later in 95. But, I mean, 5-star Flair was well and truly gone by this point.
Oh,
he was cashing in a check.
This is AT&T phone and home Flair all day.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? It was ordinary. They were both ordinary, sadly, when they should have been, amazing. Because let's not, even though Flair was phoning it in, he was still at a point in his career where he could have put on 5-star classics every day if he'd have wanted to.
He's kind of like, at the time, where Dean Ambrose is now, or John Moxley. I'm not pretentious. Fuck you guys. I've been calling him Dean Ambrose for the past 6 years. No, it's like when he wants to show up and work, he's a great little fucking talent, I don't know why I just called him little. I don't know why I just did that. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. He's this era's 95 Ric Flair. God, that's a mouthful.
Never thought I'd hear you ever compare John Moxley to Ric Flair.
Well, you see what I'm saying, though, right?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but this, I will say this. Tip of the hat to us for reviewing our first ever lifeguard match, but I do know what time it is, Matt. It's main event time, Matt.
Oh dear. And if only that main event held any quality or promise whatsoever, Travis.
I will say, Hogan and Vader is one of the first times I can look back. One of the first dream matches I ever remember having as a kid, it was like finally we got this. But see, my family never ordered WCW pay-per-views ever, so I never really got to watch any of these until later on. So maybe at the time, if I watched this, I would have thought it kicked ass and it was amazing. Watching what I watched for this, I highly doubt that. Not even Shaquille O'Neal in his all-sport black T-shirt, sweating, just the sweat just pouring off of him like a waterfall. Shaq in his corner. Was Mr. T there?
I don't think he was.
Am I mixing up my WCW shows? I think they always gave Hulk his little African-American buddy for so many shows. It's just confusing.
It was Dennis
Rodman, yes. You're right. Shaq was Bash at the Beach. Jesus. The year before. Yeah. Mixing up my Bashes and my basketball players. Goodness gracious. Yeah, it was Dennis Rodman, excuse me. But still, the sweat was pouring.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think of this before I get to it, Matt?
Well, I mean, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, this was for the WCW Championship inside a steel cage. Looked absolutely absurd that Vader almost towered the steel cage.
Yeah.
It's like just standing in the ring, he was almost bigger than it. Maybe a foot or so higher was the cage, but it looked bad. Like the setting looked bad. The cage looked cheap. The match was very poor for a Vader match. Yeah, another house show match. Take the cage away and let Vader dictate the pace of the match. Let Vader book the match, and maybe you've got something special, to end a very, very poor show. But this was just punches. This was Hogan, King Kong Bundy years later.
Exactly. I think in '89 this would have been magic. '87 through '89 this would have been a tremendous match, cage or not. But once again, lessons learned over the years. Guys that not in their prime, what not to do. This is another case of that. You got a guy, Big Van Vader, who, in my opinion, you've seen my tribute videos. You've seen me talk about it up and down, is the greatest big man of all time. Who could go out there with a small guy, big guy, and more times than not have a great match. Just wasn't happening here at all. Hulk Hogan also is kind of like a Flair. He just doesn't get a lot of credit for it. He could work when he wanted to also. Go back and watch Hogan in the 80s in Japan. He's doing chain wrestling sequences, all that stuff. But this was definitely a time where Hulk's head was in the pussy clouds in Hollywood and just not focusing on this. It was secondary. Let's be honest. It was an easy paycheck. It was his day job.
He was still riding high for the Hulkamania thing, but that had died like 2 years before.
Yeah. Honestly, the last two matches of the show just felt like a giant commercial for that upcoming episode of Baywatch. Like, yay, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. You knew who was going to win.
Yeah.
Flat out.
Yeah. And this was Vader's last WCW pay-per-view, I believe I'm right in saying.
I believe so. I think he'd be on like a Clash of Champions and on some TVs after this. But yeah, this was the last hurrah for the big man in WCW. What a run, though. My God.
I mean, great run, but you can see why he jumped ship. It was like...
He saw the writing on the wall. He always knew he was going to be a fall guy for Hogan. And honestly, I mean, even though he didn't do great in the WWF, not because of the Shawn Michaels stuff, but where do you go after Shawn Michaels? Obviously, with Steve Austin, the Attitude Era, he kind of, pushed back a little bit. But what would you do with Vader with the NWO anyway? I mean, yes, you could have gone up against him, but you already had the Giant, the lovable monster or whatever. So it is what it is. That was that. In my opinion, just a disappointing main event, a beyond disappointing show. I was actually kind of excited going because I thought, probably like you, Matt, when the first 2 minutes, I'm like, okay, this could be probably kind of good, and I just, I don't really remember the show. No, there's a reason I don't remember it.
We wiped this from our memory for a reason, Travis.
Hopefully, after this episode, we can Men in Black each other and never speak of it again. What is your final grade, Dean Douglas, on Bash at the Beach '95?
I'm going to give this a strong A. I mean, what else can you say? It's like one decent match among a 2.5 hour show. Like, they should have gone the extra mile to make this better, to make it feel more special.
Yep.
it wasn't. It's like we said at the beginning, the setting got old fast. The booking was terrible. The storylines were just fucking abysmal, and this was a WWF dumping ground, and it showed. So, I'm going to go, if you want to watch something, don't watch this. I'd say watch WrestleMania 9 over this, if you really want to watch.
I totally agree. Totally agree with you on that. And everyone knows I'm very fair. From AEW to goddamn CZW, any promotion I just dread, I'll still give it a chance at the end of the day. And this rarely happens. But this may be the first time ever, too, on this show at least. I'm giving this a solid F. There's no excuse. There is no excuse at all that I'm watching something, for one, that the spectacle it could have been. And if they just would have constructed their stage a little different, maybe for the reactions of the crowd, like we talk about, stuff like that. Oh, what could have been for this show is just a total fail, because otherwise this just felt like an episode of WCW Saturday Night on a beach. Yeah. No storylines progressed. The obvious winners were going to win for the most part, besides like Kamala, which, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I just said that. That's all you need to know. The fact that I just said that little phrase sums up why this gets an F. Total dog shit. The worst Bash at the Beach probably of all time. And I'm talking 2000 and that shit.
Yeah.
This was probably the worst.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with you, Travis. And on that note, what else can we say about it? Don't watch it. Avoid it like the plague. And we've done the hard work for you. Never say we don't give you anything, but we'll do everything for you.
Yes, hopefully you guys are spending your summer on roller coasters or at your actual beaches and not watching shit like this. We do it so you don't have to. We hope you enjoyed our look back at one of the worst shows of all time. Next time, though, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be both of us. If not, it's always Matt, the Iron Man of Union Smack, going the Omnibus NXT UK returns. But until then, one more time, Matt, where can everyone catch your online store and all that goodness?
You can find me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. You can find our official merchandise, the official Union Smack shirt, Hibiki TND shirt, Reset Button shirt at unionsmack.bigcartel.com. And look out for our next Union Smack Hall of Fame, Adrian Street, going in August.
The exotic one, Adrian Street, the forerunner to so many gimmicks like Goldust and Rico. Look for that on the channel and more. Until then, once again, as always, on Twitter at the HibikiTND. Hit it down below, that little red button for all the best in retro gaming and pro wrestling. God damn it, I almost got it home that time without messing it up. Until then, for Matt and myself, this is Union Smack. Cheerio, mates. Give me my